and welcome to the session on Carl Jung's analytic theory. The structure of personality. For 60 years, Carl Jung devoted himself with great energy and with a singularity of purpose to analyze the far-flung and deep-lying processes of human personality. His writings are voluminous and the extent of his influence is incalculable. He is known not only to psychologists and psychiatrists, but also to the educated people in all walks of life. Considering his structure of personality, the total personality or psyche, as it is called by Jung, consists of a number of differentiated elements by interacting systems. The principal ones are the ego, the personal unconscious and its complexes, and the collective unconscious and its archetypes, the persona, the anima and the animus, and the shadow. In addition to these, there are the attitudes, functions of thinking and the self. Ego. The ego is the conscious mind. It is made up of conscious perceptions, memories, thoughts and feelings. The ego is responsible for one's feelings of identity and continuity. The personal unconscious. It is a region adjoining the ego. It consists of experiences that were once conscious, but that have been repressed, suppressed, forgotten or ignored, and of experiences that were too weak in the first make a conscious impression upon the person. The contents of the personal unconscious are accessible to consciousness, and there is a great flow of two-way traffic between the personal unconscious and the ego. A complex is an organized group or constellation of feelings, thoughts, perceptions and memories that exist in the personal unconscious. The collective or transpersonal unconscious. It is one of the most original and controversial features of Jung's personality theory. It is a storehouse of latent memory traces inherited from one's ancestral past, a past that includes not only the racial history of humans as a separate species, but also their pre-human or animal ancestry as well. The collective unconscious is a psychic residue of human evolutionary development. It is almost entirely detached from anything personal in the life of an individual, and it is seemingly universal. All human beings have more or less the same collective unconscious. Archetypes. The structural components of the collective unconscious are called by various names: archetypes, dominants, primordial images, mythological images and behavior patterns. An archetype is a universal thought form creates images or vision that corresponds in normal waking life to some aspect of the conscious situation. For example, the archetype of the mother produces an image of a mother figure that is then identified with the actual mother. In other words, the baby inherits a performed conception of a generic mother that determines in part how the baby will perceive its mother. The archetype is a permanent deposit in the mind of an experience that has been constantly repeated for many generations. For instance, countless generations have seen the sun make its daily excursion from one horizon to the other. The repetition of this impressive experience eventually became fixed in the collective unconscious as an archetype of sun god, the powerful, dominating, light-giving, heavenly body that humans defied and worshipped. Archetypes function as highly charged autonomous centers of energy that tend to produce in each generation the repetition and elaborations of these same experiences. Archetypes are not necessarily isolated from one another in the collective unconscious. They interpenetrate and interfuse with one another. Myths, dreams, visions, rituals, neurotic and psychotic symptoms and works of art contain a great deal of archetypal materials and constitute the best source of knowledge regarding archetypes. There are presumed to be many archetypes in the collective unconscious. Some of the ones that have been identified are archetypes of birth, rebirth, death, power, magic, unity, the hero, the child, God, the demon, the old wise man, the earth mother, and the animal. Although all archetypes may be thought of as autonomous dynamic systems that can become relatively independent of the rest of the personality, some archetypes are treated as separate systems within personality. These are persona, the anima, and the animus and shadow. The persona. The persona is a mask adopted by the person in response to the demands of social conventions and traditions and to his or her own inner archetypal needs. It is a role assigned to one by the society, the part that society expects one to play in life. The persona is a public personality, those aspects one displays to the world or that public opinion fastens on the individual as contrasted with the private personality that exists behind the social facade. The anima and the animus. It is fairly well accepted that a human is essentially a bisexual animal. On a physiological level, the male secretes both male and female sex hormones as does the female. On the psychological level, masculine and feminine characteristics are found in both sexes. Jung ascribed the feminine side of the man's personality and the masculine side of woman's personality to archetypes. The feminine archetype in man is called the anima and the masculine archetype in woman is called the animus. Man apprehends the nature of woman by virtue of his anima and woman apprehends the nature of man by virtue of her animus. The shadow. The shadow archetype consists of the animal instincts that humans inherited in their evolutions from lower forms of life. Consequently, the shadow typifies the animal side of human nature. As an archetype, the shadow is responsible for our conception of original sin. When it is projected outward, it becomes the devil or an enemy. The shadow archetype is also responsible for the appearance in consciousness and behavior of unpleasant and socially reprehensible thoughts, feelings, and actions. Then, these may either be hidden from public view by the persona or repressed into personal unconscious. Thus, the shadow side of personality, which owes its origin to an archetype, permeates the private aspects of the ego and a large part of the content of the personal unconscious as well. The shadow, with vital and passionate animal instincts, gives a full-bodied or three-dimensional quality to the personality. It helps to round out the whole person. The self. The self is the midpoint of personality, around which all the other systems are constellated. It holds these systems together and provides the personality with unity, equilibrium, and stability. The self is life's goal, a goal that people constantly strive for but rarely reach. Like all archetypes, it motivates human behavior and causes one to search for wholeness, especially through the avenues provided by religion. Before a self can emerge, it is necessary for the various components of the personality to become fully developed and individuated. For this reason, the archetype of the self does not become evident until the person has reached the middle age. At this time, he or she begins to make a series of efforts to change the center of personality from the conscious ego to one that is midway between consciousness and unconsciousness. This midway region is the province of the self. The concept of the self is probably Jung's most important psychological discovery and represents the culmination of his intensive studies of archetypes. The attitudes. Jung distinguished two major attitudes or orientations of personality, the attitude of extraversion and the attitude of introversion. The extroverted attitude orients the person toward the external objective world. The introverted attitude orients the person towards the inner subjective world. These two opposing attitudes are both present in the personality, but ordinarily one of them is dominant and conscious while the other is subordinate and unconscious. The dynamics of personality. Jung conceived of the personality or psyche as being a partially closed energy system. The energy by which the work of the personality is performed is called psychic energy. Psychic energy is a manifestation of life energy, that is the energy of the organism as biological system. Jung's term for life energy is libido, but he also used libido interchangeably with psychic energy. Psychic energy is a hypothetical construct. It is not a concrete substance or phenomenon. Consequently, it cannot be measured or sensed. Psychic energy finds concrete expression in the form of actual or potential forces. Wishing, willing, feeling, attending and striving are examples of actual forces in the personality. Dispositions, aptitudes, tendencies, inclinations and attitudes are examples of potential forces. Psychic values. The amount of psychic energy invested in an element of the personality is called the value of that element. Value is a measure of intensity. The absolute value idea or feeling cannot be determined, but its relative value can be. The determination of unconscious values can be done by evaluating the constellating power of the nuclear element of a complex. The constellating power of a complex consists of the number of groups of items that are brought into association by the nuclear element of the complex. Jung discusses three methods of assessing the constellating power of a nuclear element. 1. Direct observation plus analytic deductions. 2. Complex indicators. And 3. The intensity of emotional expression. The principle of equivalence. Jung based his view of psychodynamics upon two fundamental principles. The principle of equivalence states that if energy is expended in bringing about a certain condition, the amount expended will appear elsewhere in the system. The principle states that if a particular value weakens or disappears, the sum of energy represented by the value will not be lost from the psyche, but will reappear in a new value. The lowering of one value inevitably means the raising of another value. In terms of the functioning of the total personality, the principle of equivalence states that if energy is removed from one system, for example, the ego, it will appear in some other system, perhaps the persona. Or if more and more values are expressed into the shadow side of personality, it will grow strong at the expense of other personality structures. The principle of entropy. This principle is adapted by Jung to describe personality dynamics. It states that the distribution of energy in the psyche seeks an equilibrium or balance. This ideal state in which the total energy is evenly distributed throughout the various fully developed system is a self. When Jung asserted that self-realization is the goal of psychic development, he meant, among other things, that the dynamics of personality move toward a perfect equilibrium of forces. The use of energy. The total psychic energy available to the personality is used for two general purposes. Some of it is expended in performing work that is necessary for the maintenance of life and for the propagations of the species. There are the inborn instinctive functions as exemplified by hunger and sex. They operate according to natural biological laws. Any energy in excess of that needed by the instincts may be employed in cultural and spiritual activities. According to Jung, these activities constitute the more highly developed purposes of life. As a person becomes more efficient in satisfying his or her biological needs, more energy becomes available for the pursuit of cultural interest. Moreover, as the aging body makes fewer demands on energy, more energy is available for psychic activities. The development of personality. The most salient feature of Jung's theory of personality is the emphasis that he placed upon the forward-going character of personality development. Jung believed that humans are constantly progressing or attempting to progress from a less complete stage of development to a more complete one. He also believed that humankind as a species is constantly evolving more differentiated forms of existence. The ultimate developmental goal towards which people strive is summed up by the term self-realization. Self-realization means the fullest, most complete differentiation and harmonious blending of all aspects of human's personality. It means that the psyche has evolved a new center, the self, that takes the place of the old center, the ego. All of evolution, as it manifests itself in psychic development from the first primitive organisms to the appearance of humans, is a parade of progress. Progress did not stop with the creations of humans, just as humans represent in advance over all other species of animal, so do civilized humans represent an improvement over primitive humans. Even civilized humans still have far to go before they will reach the end of evolutionary journey. It was the future of humans that Jung found so interesting and challenging, and about which he had so much to say in his extensive writings. Stages of development. Jung described 4 general developmental stages. We will not present the last stage, old age, because Jung regarded it as a period of relative unimportance when the old persons gradually sink into the unconscious. A. Childhood. The child's life is determined by instinctual activities necessary for survival. Behavior during childhood is also governed by parental demands. The emotional problems experienced by a young child generally reflect disturbing influences in the home. In sharp contrast to Freud, Jung did not emphasize the determining power of childhood for subsequent behavior. Young adulthood. Puberty serves as a psyche birth for the personality. Not only does sexuality emerge, but the child becomes differentiated from his or her parents. The adolescent must learn to confront the world and to prepare for life. Extraversion is the primary attitude. Consciousness dominates mental life as a young person pursued the task of finding a male and finding a vocation. The adolescent must grapple with issue of sexuality as well as power of insecurity. Middle age. By their later 30s, most people have dealt with the issue of young adulthood by marrying and establishing themselves in a vocation. At this point, a very different concern emerges, the need of meaning. People need to find a purpose for their lives and reason for their existence. In Jung's terminology, they change from an extroverted to an introverted attitude. They move towards self-realization. This is a term for a middle-aged crisis. Youthful interests and pursuits lose their value and are replaced by new interests that are more cultural and less biological. The middle-aged persons become more introverted and less impulsive. This transition is the most decisive event in a person's life. It is also one of the most hazardous because if anything goes amiss during the transference of energy, the personality may become permanently crippled. This happens, for example, when the cultural and spiritual values of middle age do not utilize all of the energy formerly invested in instinctual aims. In that case, the excess energy is free to upset the equilibrium of the psyche. Progression and regression. Development may follow either a progressive forward movement or regressive backward movement. But by progression, Jung meant that the conscious ego is adjusting satisfactorily both to the demands of the external environment and to the needs of the unconscious. When the forward going movement is interrupted by frustrating circumstances, the libido is thereby prevented from being invested in extroverted or environment oriented values. That is, objective ego values are transformed into subjective values. Regression is the antithesis of progression. The individuation process. The personality has a tendency to develop in the direction of a stable unity is a central feature of Jung's psychology. Development is an unfolding of the original undifferentiated wholeness with which humans are born. The ultimate goal of this unfolding is the realization of selfhood. In order to realize this aim, it is necessary for the various systems of personality to become completely differentiated and fully developed. If any part of the personality is neglected, the neglected and less developed systems will act as centers of resistance that will try to capture energy from more fully developed systems. To have a healthy integrated personality, every system must be permitted to reach the fullest degrees of differentiation, development and expression. The process by which this is achieved is called the individuation process. Let me summarize the session. The chapter provides a detailed picture of the analytic theory of Carl Jung. The structure, the dynamics and the development of personality are discussed. Ego, the personal unconscious, the collective unconscious, the archetypes, the self, the attitudes, etc. are the major concepts in the structure of personality. In the dynamics of personality, two principles are discussed, principle of equivalence and principle of entropy. The development of personality is explained by emphasizing different stages of development, progression, regression and individuation process. Now, you can try to answer the questions given here. What is the structure of personality as discussed by Carl Jung? What is self in Jung's theory? Briefly describe the principle of equivalence. What is the difference between progression and regression? What are the different stages of development as detailed by Carl Jung? Now, you may go through the reference books listed here. The Psychology of Jung in 1961 by A. M. Dry, New York, Wiley. Theories of Personality in 1998 by C. S. Hall, G. Lindsay and J. B. Campbell, India, Thomson Press. The Structure and Dynamics, the Psyche in Collected Works in 1960 by C. G. Jung, Princeton University Press. Thank you for watching this program. We can meet again with another topic. Till then, take care.